Welcome back to Deer Valley Homestead. My name's Andy, my partner's Beata, and this week we're talking compost, and not just any compost. We are talking compost lazy style. I don't have time to be watering it, checking the temperature, turning it over, and all of the other myriad of things that people say you should do with compost. I just do lazy compost. What are you guys up to? Huh? Oh, so much cuteness. What are we putting in our compost? The most important thing, I guess, is a bunch of green and a bunch of brown. Green, grass cuttings, anything like that. Anything that's dry, wood shavings, hay, counts as brown. Simple. We put that in layers. Now, before we go too far into the video, I do want to show you the results of this compost. I'm not just making this stuff up. This is the result. Our garden is hectic. These zucchini plants are up to my waist. Sunflowers, corn, tomatoes. Oh, some of those look nearly ready. We have garlic, not that you can see it, I really need to weed. Bee's been out here this week, weeding. I don't know how she managed it. It's been a heat wave here, got all sorts of heat warnings. You know, the kind, don't go outside, don't do any manual labor, drink a lot. And she came out weeding in that weather. I don't know how she did it. And to be fair to her, it looks amazing. I'm going to show you a clip from last year, our old garden. It was just up here where the chickens are now. We did not put any compost in that garden, and we had a terrible time growing last year. Our zucchini plants, I think at most, got to about 20 centimeters high, whereas these guys are up to my waist. The tomatoes that were outside last year never got very big, and yeah. So it's worked. I'm also going to show you some clips of how we put the compost into the soil. It's done pretty well for us, and there's a pretty big difference between where we put the compost and where we didn't. None of our corn got this big last year. Wowzers. I mean, it's not that leafy, but it is above my head. One small issue I have had with the compost is that we put everything in there. All the garden waste, kitchen scraps, etc, etc. No meat obviously, but you know, all the normal stuff that you'd put in. But one thing that we have had happen is we have a lot of tribute plants. For example, in the middle of the corn here is this tomato plant. There's another one over the other side, and those are just seeds that obviously you know, got thrown in the compost, and as I've mixed it into the soil, they've grown up. Check this out. That is tomato heaven on the way. I think there's another batch over there. Some of them are ready, some of them are not even close. But this line where I'm stood right now is the line between compost and no compost. And that is the tomatoes, and this is the tomatoes on the other side. I will be completely honest with you, these tomatoes were planted a little bit later than the others, so they have had more time. But there is still quite a big difference, and I think that part of that is the compost. This side of the garden, we haven't put any compost in. This soil felt a little bit better when I was rotivating, and I only had enough compost for half the garden, so rather than spread it out, I just did half the garden. I am putting absolutely everything into this compost. All of the rabbit waste collected in the buckets down here, that all goes in there. All of the waste from the duck house goes in there. I think that probably needs to go in there today as well. It's definitely time for a duck clean out. And all of the chicken shavings from baby animals, you name it, it all goes in there. Now, why do I call this lazy compost? It's simple. I've got 2 bays. All I do is fill them up in layers. Green, brown, green, brown, green, brown. I don't turn them, I don't water them, I don't do anything with them. That's it. I leave it there until next spring, and then I stick it in the garden. I could turn it, I could get the compost ready. It could be done in, some people do it in 3 weeks, 6 weeks. Of course that's possible, but I don't need it for that. I need it for my garden. So why go through all that extra effort? This time of year it's so dry, it's probably not doing much, but let's have a dig around, see what we can find. So of course the outside is always going to be like that. Very dry. And there we go. Feels super hot, but I think that's just because it's a hot day. Oh, good morning to you, Mr. Roosty. Layer of green. Layer of brown. This is all the old hay from last year. Some of it got wet, some of it got rotten. Doesn't matter. Perfect for compost. Perfect for compost. No good for rabbits. I do still use some of it for the bedding for the ducks and stuff like that, but mostly what's left is trash. Now, I really don't worry too much about how high this pile gets, because by tomorrow it'll be back down here anyway. Of course, if you're lucky enough to have some rabbit poop, drop that in there as well. Now, of course, with the poop, the rabbit stuff could just go straight on the garden. It's one of the nice things with rabbits. Chicken, goose, guinea, all of that needs to go in your compost for a few months. It's just too strong to go straight in the garden. So that is it. Green, brown, green, brown, green, brown. Could throw some water on there, I'm not going to bother. It's going to rain at some point in the next 9 months. So that is it for this week. Lazy Andy style compost. Thank you very much for watching. We will catch you all next week.